What is up, metalheads around the world and subscribers galore, and welcome to episode 71 of the Horsemen podcast. And yeah, you might think, wait, hasn't it only been 4 days since the last episode? Isn't it usually every 2-3 weeks? Well,
Sometimes.
sometimes, but we got thrusted this awesome episode that's been a year in the making, and it's finally happening as we are honored and privileged to have, well, if you thought having Dan Swano on recently was big, this one is just as big because this man is one of my favorite riff writers, guitarists, and in my opinion, very underrated in the world of death metal, and also a hell of a horror author. Please welcome from the mighty Broken Hope, Mr. Jeremy Wagner.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Levi, Ricky, appreciate being on the show. Thank you for having me today on this beautiful Monday.
Yeah, it is actually nice out here, too.
Yeah,
so
it's actually kind of cloudy here in Texas. It's about
not
80
hot,
degrees,
thankfully.
so it ain't hot. So
It's actually overcast here in the Chicagoland area right now, but that's all right. Still, I'll take it. Yeah, it's been hot here.
Yeah. Surprisingly, here in Ohio, it's been kind of, well, except for like maybe 7 days where it was like 90 plus, it's been kind of a cold summer here this year, which I ain't complaining.
Yeah, that's cool. Levi, you said you're from Ohio?
Yep.
Oh, they got some great bands coming out of Ohio.
Yeah.
200 Stab Wounds, Sanguisugabog. Yeah.
And even Necrophagia back in the day, too.
Yeah.
Nunslaughter, good God. Midnight, like we could go on.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ricky over here from Texas, and Texas got a killer scene going right now.
Yep.
So
in the Midwest, Chicago, we were always known as like the Chicago death metal band, but there's been so many death metal bands from here. You know, legendary Master, is from here. Cyanide. My stepson's got a band now too called, it's a grind band, Glory Hole Guillotine, and to that end, it's like Ohio is now going to be known as having a genre of Ohio death metal.
I mean, hell, hell, my buddy Necrotic Nick from Thralls of Metal, one of my favorite YouTube channels, just did a whole deep dive on Ohio death metal. It's like, man, it's crazy to think how many there are, but yeah, it's insane. Midwest metal's killing it right now.
A band, if I'm not mistaken, was from Ohio, a old school band back when we were starting, a band called Gutted.
Yes,
from Ohio, right? Yep. I remember those.
I need to get those albums at some point. But which is actually a good place to kind of begin. Well, a good place to begin is, well, first of all, I remembered, can't remember sometime a year ago where he was on the Necrocasticon podcast with a bunch of my buddies, Scott, Walter Ball, Thomas Clark. And Scott and Walter are good friends of Ricky and I. We do the wrestling podcast, Shadow Call podcast, every Saturday. Cool. So, and of course, with you being on that show, they wanted me to ask you, to have this opportunity to ask you about your book writing career to start things off with. Like, how did you get into writing books, and as well as your first one, The Armageddon Chord?
Well, I started writing when I was a really young kid, like grade school. I was always really into books, really into writing and using my imagination. When I was growing up, I lived in the middle of nowhere, central Wisconsin, out in America's Dairyland on a farm. And you're talking, early, mid 70s. To late 70s, and back then we didn't have cable TV. They didn't have satellite TV out in the country, so we had maybe 4 or 5 channels we could get in, on our rabbit ears on our black and white TV. So I mentioned that because later, when I got older and moved to a city and I saw like, kids in junior high and whatnot who had grown up in the city. Everyone was like always watching TV constantly. I didn't know too many book readers when I was a kid, and even as a teenager. So that's what I call the plus side of growing up in the country without a lot of access to, I guess, shit that would distract me as a kid. So I was always reading books and loving stories. And I, if I could sometimes go to the movies in this local town, that was always great. I've always been a horror kid too. Like I was always into scary shit. Halloween, my favorite holiday. And it all kind of culminated together. And part of that influence too, both books and being in the creepy stuff, was from my mother. She to this day, she's still a voracious reader. And she had this library at home of all the books she read. She never threw them out. So she'd have like all these mystery books, Agatha Christie and Alfred Hitchcock anthologies, murder mystery stuff. And then she started reading, I remember Peter Straub. And then when Stephen King came out, she was buying his books. And, the thing with me, the level of reading that I got to was really accelerated. I went from like kids books to upper grade books like that. And then I remember I have said this in interviews before, like the first adult novel I ever read was Jaws by Peter Benchley. Because when I was 5 in 1975, Jaws came out in movie theaters. So Peter Benchley's novel Jaws was a hardcover first, and then when the movie was coming out in the paperback version of Jaws, that was such a blockbuster film back then, and the novel, the paperback tie-in to the movie was like everywhere. It was at every grocery store, every drugstore, every newsstand. So not only did I see that book as a kid everywhere I went with my mom, but my mom had that book. Like every relative I had, every aunt and uncle, I had Jaws paperback. So, and I just remember staring at the cover, like, here's this naked woman swimming in the ocean and this gigantic, super huge shark coming up. Like that imagery had such a profound effect on me. So I'm like, I started reading the book, and I'm just a kid, so I can read really well. I don't know some dynamics of adult relationships and certain language stuff like that, but I got the gist of it. I was like, holy shit, this is different. This is a different type of book.
Yeah.
It was really
New world has been opened.
Yeah.
It was really cool. So I'm like, man, I want to just start writing my own stories. And I would start writing like little ideas down. I remember not long after that, like again, mid 70s now, my maternal grandmother, on my birthday, I was probably about 6 or 7 by then. She gave me this hardcover, like imagine like a trade book size thing that's a hardcover. It says, and it's like it's like the whole cover and spine and back are look like denim blue jean pants with a pocket on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those.
And where the tag of the pocket is, it says my book. And then when you open it, it's nothing but lined pages. So that was for me to write my stories in. So I turned that into like my where I'd write my first stories. So I wrote. I remember the first thing I wrote, like story-wise, was an adaptation of this super cheesy movie that was on one of the channels we got on our black and white TV. It was called The Last Dinosaur, and it was this Japanese, super cheesy Japanese movie with this Tyrannosaurus Rex and these people in this ship. Like it's like a boring drill. Imagine like a capsule with like a drill on the front, and they drill. They take this thing and drill through the ice and come up through this pocket of through the ice that's like a prehistoric world that's perfectly preserved. And there's this Tyrannosaurus, and it's if you YouTube The Last Dinosaur, man, it's so cheesy now, but back then, dude, I thought that was the greatest fucking movie I'd ever seen in my life. So, and again, we didn't have, you know, video recorder or nothing. So when I saw The Last Dinosaur, like somehow, I don't know, my memory back then was so good. I could commit that like to memory, everything I just seen, like photographic memory. And so I'm like, I'm going to make my own book adaptation of The Last Dinosaur. So I, you know, wrote this story with the characters and dialogue and shit that I could remember. And then I started writing in there, like by then Jaws 2 came out. So I was like, I'm going to write a book called Jaws 3.
Oh boy.
Oh, and I'd always draw the cover art for these books I, you know, was writing. They're just little stories, but, and again, it's like the Jaws shark coming up and, you know, eating someone. And then, yeah, I just kept writing in there. I also turned it into my diary as well. So there, like, I still have it, this thing here. It's pretty hilarious because it's like I'd write down all the girls' names I liked in grade school. Like, I love Shelly. I love Lynn. I love Leslie. I love Rhonda. I love Amy. You know, like hilarious shit. So, anyway, so writing and books, you know, came before music ever me wanting to be a musician. But I was also into music really heavily as a kid, really big time. All my parents' vinyl and stuff. But anyway, as time went on, I just kept on writing. And then like when I formed Broken Hope, well, I should rewind a minute. When I got into to be around 12, I begged my mom for a guitar. Because one of my aunts was a folk singer, guitarist, and her and some of her friends, they'd play guitar. And I was like fascinated by this instrument. I'm like, this is incredible how they make these sounds and stuff, you know? And it was like that for guitar, not any other instrument. I didn't care about piano or anything. It was like something about guitar really fascinated me. So my mom got me an acoustic guitar at age 12, which is my first guitar. And then when I got it, you know, typical kid thing, once I got it, I didn't really do anything with it. I didn't try to take lessons or anything. So it wasn't until, you know, I was like just a couple years later, like when I'm 14, 15, I'm in the metal now because like by the time I got that first acoustic guitar, I was getting into more and more rock. And then like Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance came out when I was 12. Got that. I got all these other like rock bands like, you know, Iron Maiden, Crocus, stuff like that. You know, I was this band Zebra. I remember I love that.
Yeah, Zebra.
And, great band. Their first album is still, I love that album. But then my taste, I'm a teenager and we finally moved to this town, this city. We had cable TV, our first color television. We had a VHS player, and I'd watch back then. You guys seem pretty young, so when I'm like talking about like back then in the old days,
Yeah.
I was watching TV. It was like we had Headbangers Ball and all this metal was on
Yes.
Yeah.
TV. It was the greatest time in the 80s, like to have MTV. Because it got turned on all these bands. And that's like I saw this concert called Day on the Green through MTV. I wasn't at Day on the Green, but Day on the Green was 1985. It was one of the most famous Day on the Green festivals. It's in Oakland, California, and it was like the Scorpions headlined, Yngwie Malmsteen, Y&T, can't remember who else, but the main band was Metallica. That I was like, who the hell are these guys? Because Ride the Lightning had come out the year before in '84, but I wasn't hip to Metallica yet. I'd see their albums in record bins and shit, but I had to pick and choose what I got at the record store. My mom raised my sister and I, and she didn't have a lot of money at all, and I worked, I worked what I could as a kid to make money, paper routes and shit. So I wasn't like able to buy every album that was out there. But what happened was one day there was a show on MTV. I think it was called Metal Mania or something. And it was like, we're live at Day on the Green in Oakland, California. And they spent a couple hours or so. They would show music videos and then talk to bands at Day on the Green and show some live stuff. And I remember just a second, because I recorded this on VHS. I recorded everything I could that was on MTV metal wise. So I watched this over and over, but there's only a couple seconds. It's like Metallica playing, and you see their name on the screen, and they're like doing Fight Fire with Fire or something, and then it cuts to Lars and James backstage, and they're like, "This is Lars, this is James from Metallica, and you're watching whatever Metal Mania or some shit." Yeah. So I watched that over and over, and I'm like, in those few seconds, they didn't have Metallica didn't have music videos, so I didn't know what they were really like. But in a couple seconds, I'm like, these guys are playing so friggin' fast, and seem like they got a real attitude. They're not like any band I ever saw. So a friend of mine was a punk rock skateboarder guy. He was into punk skateboarding, but he's also into metal. And his parents were like, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right, they're like professors at the local university. So the town I lived in was Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which was a university town. And in fact, I think one of the guys from that last podcast on the left was also from Stevens Point, if you ever listened to that. But anyway, a little trivia. But I said to my friend, I'm like, have you ever heard of this band? And I said, called them Metallica. I didn't even know how to pronounce Metallica. Like, you mean Metallica? Yeah, man. They got 2 great albums. I got them at the house. You want to hear them? And it was, I'm like, yeah. So I'll never forget. We went to his house, and he had Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. Again, that's the only 2 albums they had out. So I'm like, play that new album, or their last album, because this is 1985. He put on Ride the Lightning. I'll never forget that. That's the moment changed my life. I just swear to God, I can't tell you what that moment was for me, because it starts out with that classical guitar intro, goes into Fight Fire with Fire, then Ride the Lightning, and then by the time For Whom the Bell Tolls, and that song was so heavy, I was so fucking blown away. I remember I was we were in his basement, jamming this as loud as possible. I was standing on his skateboard, kind of going back and forth to the music. And man, I just stopped. I said, please, for the love of God, will you please dub this tape for me right now because I didn't have money, right?
Mhm.
He's like, no problem. He did, and he gave me all this other shit too, like Slayer, Show No Mercy, and fucking Motorhead, and Venom, and like it changed my life. But Metallica, Ride the Lightning changed my life, and then winter comes, and now it's 86, and fucking I remember a local record store there's a university record store called Campus Records, and I was in there. There was also a metal radio station
Mm-hmm.
town about an hour away from Stevens Point, and you could sometimes pick up the signal. And they had a show called Metal Shop, which was really cool for a teenager. Like if my buddies and I could get it in on a certain night, we'd hear all these other bands we didn't know of, like this band Pile Driver. They had this album Metal Inquisition. I remember that. I'm like, holy shit, I gotta get that. And I went to Campus Records, and they actually had the cassette. And that, when I was getting that cassette and some others, that one day I went in there, coming soon, on the window, coming soon, Metallica, Master of Puppets. And I was telling my buddy that skateboard, look, man, there's another Metallica album coming out. And then my skateboard buddy, I don't think I've ever mentioned this in an interview, but I'm not proud of this, but he was an expert shoplifter.
Oh,
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Lifted,
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do for the metal.
I mean, this kid's parents bought him whatever he wanted. He had like 200 fucking cassette tapes at his house. I thought anyone with 200 cassettes is fucking filthy rich,
Yeah.
But I had to do a paper route to fucking make money and help my mom. It's like crazy. So I'm like, why do you got to shoplift? But anyway, I say that now. Back then, I'm like just watching them, like literally shoplift 5 vinyls under his shirt. Like, how the fuck do you walk out of a store with 5 vinyls?
Oh, back then,
And the store's going to do the inventory and go, what the fuck happened here? But he took 5 vinyls of Master of Puppets, and I got one. He gave me one. I didn't have to do any of the dirty work, but so I had that. So my point is, that's when in 85, 86, I'm like, this is all I want to do. I want to fucking be a guitar player in a metal band. And I got my first electric guitar. And then not long after, I started taking serious lessons with a great teacher who I'm still friends with today, my friend Tom Bradner. Tom Bradner was a classically trained guitarist, kind of like Randy Rhoads, but in a metal thrash band. He was in a band called Numbskull that did one album. You guys could.
I remember that name.
Their album's called Ritually Abused. And so I had this teacher who had a degree in music, so he could teach me music theory and all kinds of shit on that end of the guitar, technically, arpeggios, modes, all this stuff, that made me a better player. I'm not known as a shredder, but I still practice all that shit to this day. My modes, my arpeggios, speed runs, shredding stuff. But I've always been about the riff. And the thing with Tom is I'm getting at that side of the guitar, but then I'm getting all these metal methods, if you call it that. Mm-hmm. It's funny because back in the 80s, there was a guy in guitar magazines. Every issue would have a full page ad, metal method by so-and-so. And this guy had big blonde, super spiky hair, and he was a shredder guitarist, But Tom really showed me real metal methods that I wanted, which were Metallica riffs, Slayer riffs, hammer-ons, power chords, and all this stuff. And that was really helpful. So, but by the time in 86 as well, then I got Rain and Blood
by Slayer, and when I always read the liner notes religiously, and every album I bought, like just going through and being like, who wrote what, and what are the lyrics, and what are the thanks lists, and all that. And I noticed that the guy who wrote like the best riffs also wrote the best lyrics. That was Jeff Hanneman.
Yes.
And in my head, like I said, I'd been a writer my whole life as a kid and a young, a teenager. I'm like, that's what I want to do in a band. I want to write the heaviest, best riffs, and I want to write the lyrics. I had no desire to be a singer. I did technically, I don't think I ever mentioned this in an interview, but first time I ever tried out for a band was as a singer. My heart was into being a guitarist, but when I was like 16, 17, I wanted to be in a band so bad, I fucking tried out as a singer. And it was for a cover band. And my tryout song was Am I Evil?
Am I evil?
Not a bad one. Not a bad one to start.
And I never got the gig, which is fine because they did all these cover. I was not into cover songs anyway. And a little bit later, what's funny is that band got a singer, and they played a local VFW hall. I was friends with all those guys. They went to high school with me, and they decided to do a cover of Angel of Death. Like usually their covers were more rock and, what I would call back in the day poser shit and whatever. But they decided to do Angel of Death, and by then I was such a Slayer fanatic. They're like, hey, how would you do this or that riff wise? And then they got the song down, and they did the show at a VFW hall, and then they had me come up and like sing Angel of Death. There's no fucking footage of it. There's one photo of me singing it, and it was pretty fucking funny because believe me, I'm no singer. But I got off that stage, and that's the first time I ever signed an autograph.
Oh wow!
Wow. Can I get your autograph? I'm like 16, 17, and I said, I'm not even in the band. She's like, I don't care. On stage. Like, that's where I signed my first autograph. It's all coming back to me now, guys. This is what happens when I start talking. Anyway,
it's fine.
When I started, I just said, screw it. I'm going to form my own band and write my own music. Again, I was not into being in a cover band. And all the bands in high school, these guys were always in cover bands. They were into, mainstream metal and, hard rock, what people call hair metal, but, and that just wasn't my thing. And I just wanted to be super creative and make my own music. So I started writing my own music, tried forming my first bands, and I got together with our original Broken Hope singer, Joe. We rode a school bus together. So he lived in my neighborhood. So we tried forming a couple bands. Like we had a band our first band was called Decimation. Then we had a band called Vile Demise. And then we had a band called Crypt. And Crypt is the band where Joe and I joined forces with our first Broken Hope drummer, Ryan Stanek. And Ryan was jamming with this other guitar player. And the two of them called themselves Crypt. So when Joe and I joined forces, they wanted to be called Crypt. And after a few months of jamming with this other guitarist, we hated him. We couldn't stand him. It was like I would liken the experience to be like Metallica when they had Dave Mustaine in the band. It's like, we got to get rid of this fucking guy. He's a real prick, real asshole. He was a bully and fucking just trying to push us around. And like, we're like, fuck you. So we got rid of him. And when we got rid of him, we said, we got to change the name. And that's when Joe, Ryan, and I sat down on a weekend together, like in a circle, writing down names on a pad of paper. Three of us were going to pick the best one. And I wrote down Broken Hope because that came from a dark poem that I wrote when I was a teenager. Again, despite wanting to be in a band and make a band, I was always writing, always since, again, grade school. So I had all these poems, and I had this poem like about this chick, and it was like the name Broken Hope was in there. And it was like, I just got a demo from Ross from Immolation. We used to tape trade together, and Ross sent me a demo. You know, I'm living in Chicagoland area. Ross is from Yonkers, New York, and we trade tapes and shit. And he sent me a tape by band Paradise Lost, and it was a demo. And he's like, "Hey, Jeremy, you need check this demo out. This is the heaviest fucking band I've ever heard." And I heard the demo. I just fell in love with it. And I thought, now this band is super heavy and dark, and they don't have a typical death metal name. You know, they're death metal, but they're called Paradise Lost. And like, so when I wrote down the name Broken Hope, one, it was a name, again, that came from this dark poem I had, but I'm like, Broken Hope is like, holds weight in the way that Paradise Lost's name holds weight.
Yeah.
They're super heavy death metal band, but it's not a typical name. But when you hear the name Broken Hope,
It clicks.
Paradise Lost, and you hear our music or their music, like early on, it was like made sense. And so Joe and Ryan liked the name, and we became Broken Hope. And I'd already been writing lyrics by then, so Joe was always really like cool about me writing the lyrics. He didn't really care. He just wanted to work on being the sickest vocalist he could. So, and he always liked my writing. And Joe gave me ideas for lyrics too. You know, it wasn't like I just came up with anything. He came up with ideas and go, "Hey, write about this, write about that." I would turn in lyrics, and he'd make me go back to the drawing board and like, you need to make them like twice as long and shit like that. So anyway, my vision though of being a guitarist, writing all the heaviest music I could and writing all the lyrics, it was all working out. And then so Broken Hope had arrived. You know, it's like now it's 1988, 89, and we went forward. Now, again, I was always writing. So as Broken Hope got signed and released like our first 5 albums in the 90s, I was still working on my craft, writing short stories, trying to get better and better. And then I started going to writing conferences and shit, like in my late 20s. And then what really changed was in 2002, Broken Hope went on hiatus after our 5th album and our last US and European tours. Everyone just everything kind of imploded and shit wasn't right. And I was like, I don't want Broken Hope if it's not the right lineup. All right. I just didn't want to fucking ruin the name of the band. You know, I've seen that happen. And at the end, with some hired hands we had playing in the band and stuff, that to me, it wasn't working out personality wise, and it wasn't working out, you know, performance wise either. I'm like, this is not good. So put that on hold. I focused more on writing. I was still writing music. I ended up doing an album in like 2007 called Upara, this band I made. And we did one album and one MTV music video for when Headbangers Ball came back. We had like a top 10 video on there. It was pretty cool. But other than that, I was just focused on writing. And I eventually sold my first short story for an anthology that was published. It was a zombie anthology published by St. Martin's Press, which is a super huge publisher. So when I sold that story, and my story was actually the first story in the collection too, which was really cool for me. That book sold like, I don't know, 60,000 copies. It did really well, and that put me on the map. And I had a novel that I'd written that at the time I thought was great, but it really wasn't. I really had a lot to learn about the craft and editing and rewriting and all this stuff. But I love the craft. I'm passionate about writing, and I, again, just kept working on that craft, you know. So then I wrote the Armageddon Chord, and it was not long after I sold that story that an agent was like, "I'm interested in that book. I heard you have the Armageddon Chord," and so I sent it to her. She sent it back. She liked it, but I had to edit it and revise it. And then when it was ready, she shopped around. So then I got my first book deal. Then the Armageddon Chord came out, and it did really well. It was like top 10 paperback bestseller first week on BarnesandNoble.com, and I got a couple book awards, and in the running, first round pick for Stoker Award. I didn't get the Stoker, but anyway, it was still great just to be recognized. I don't know. And then that put me on the map, and then I was able to quit my day job, write full time, and then in between, so after the Armageddon Chord, I published short fiction here and there. Then I wrote the novel Rabbit Heart. That came out a few years ago, did really well. I've sold some more short stories. I got 2 more books that are done, should be out next year. One's another novel, really fucked up one. And the other one's actually a memoir I wrote for a famous chef. His name's Curtis Duffy. And I only write what I'm into, so I have to be into someone's life story to really write it. And Curtis Duffy's life story is, when you read the memoir, it's crazy. It's incredible. It's inspiring. It's tragic. It's like a friend of mine, best-selling author Peter Blauner, who knows this book. He's like, Sons of Anarchy meets Anthony Bourdain Kitchen Confidential.
Wow.
Curtis was raised in like a Hell's Angels house. His dad was this crazy biker, and a real badass, and it's about Curtis's journey through on his culinary road, and now being like this super famous and epic level chef, and it's great. But anyway, so those 2 books should be coming out next year, and then like to do a short story collection at some point of all the either stories I published before and then a bunch of new ones. And I've got another like work in progress novel that, but it keeps getting pushed to the side because these other 2 books I had to get ready to publish next year. And I have a production company, and I'm now writing scripts actually for film and TV. So I just got a huge deal, like a write for hire gig, to write a pilot episode of a TV series, and then like an overview of what the first season would be, and of course it's dark, twisted, fucked up kind of stuff. So it's right up my alley. So when I was approached, we'd like to pay you to write this script. I'm like, here's the idea. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Let's do it. So that's been cool. But anyway, to that end, I got to get these obligations done and get this script written. But anyway, there's a lot more Jeremy Wagner penned books, scripts, and otherwise coming out. And I do have 11 new Broken Hope songs written finally for what will be our next album, musically. I don't have the lyrics written yet, but it's been long enough, I can blame shit on COVID for 2 years, shut shit down and whatever.
Yeah.
Really, I could have hopped on the ball and started writing a while back. But you know what? The things have to happen naturally and organically for me. And I like when I write a book or I write music, write an album, there's no way there's going to be filler. It's like quality is paramount to me. It's got to be the best sounding album, the best songs ever. And same with books. I'm not going to write some lame ass, cheesy, generic, mainstream book to either one, appease the public, or two, be lazy. I'm going to write what's true to me. And what's true to me is giving people the best creativity and the best quality writing and the best story possible. Now, best story possible, like with the Broken Hope music, that's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do it for myself, but it's still important and delivering the best stuff. So after we do Mexico Metal Fest next month, which is the only show we're playing this year, we're going to totally switch gears because all we're doing is rehearsing for this massive show and making sure our stuff's down and that we're kicking ass, right? We will focus after that on the new album. And the plan is to record it over the winter and have it out next year.
Hell yes.
Hell yeah.
And you know what? And you know what's great? A lot of the questions we had, you pretty much answered all.
Yeah.
It's
kind of cool.
I told you, man, before we went live, just get talking. I won't.
Yeah.
So I basically just gave you Jeremy
like
Wagner's,
half the questions.
Yeah.
Right there.
And,
music, creative muses, writing and music. I just gave you everything from 1973 to 2022.
It's kind of cool.
Like age 3 to age 52.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And I like the fact that you talked about your early childhood with horror because I started getting into horror mostly around maybe when I was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Chucky, the first House Play was my first introduction to horror. It's like one of my favorites. And with you, I mean, I envy you because you started. This was the boom of horror. The first Halloween, the first Texas Chainsaw, the first Carrie, Jaws, The Omen, Phantasme, the first Alien, Jaws. So it's kind of cool.
The list goes on.
The list goes on and on. I could go on for that. And of course, as years go by, that horror style kind of influenced your metal influence, of course, the album covers, to eventually creating, of course, your debut album, Swamp the Gore.
Yep.
And I've always been fascinated with two album covers you have. Of course, you have this was the original cover.
That's the original, yes.
Yeah, and of course, the alternative cover. So my question is, why two alternative album covers? Was it something the record label wanted to do or something that you had ideas? They were like, oh, let's just add as a bonus stuff.
Yeah, like that. Hold that digipack up again, Ricky. So, that cover in there. Who put this one out, by the way? What
that was
Marquee Records.
Marquee Records. Okay. So, that when we signed our first record deal was with a company called Grindcore International Records, and we were like either 20. Like I was one of the oldest guys in the band. So I was like 20 years old. The other guys were like 19, 18, Joe, Ryan. And we were all excited to be signed to a record deal for one, but we were also really naive about shit. So I remember we had ideas for an album cover, but the record label president, his brother was a artist who did some other album covers for bands on the label. Like he did album cover for Crowbar. They were signed to the same label we were in the beginning, and a couple other bands. Maybe the president of the label is like, this is your album cover. You're gonna use this. And we didn't think to speak up and go, screw that, because we hated that cover. We fucking hated that cover.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
random eyeballs, skulls.
eyeballs,
Yeah, there's an
plain
electric
chest or
skeleton in the
something.
back. There's eyeball checkerboard. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? So anyway, now if you flip to the cover on the front, Metal Blade, that same year, because we went through 2 pressings of Swamp Thing Gore like that on Grindcore, like 10,000 copies. Metal Blade got wind of what we were selling, and then they saw us live at Milwaukee Metal Fest 6. And right after that, they came in, hey, we'd like to sign you guys. What's the story? I'm like, well, we just have the one album with Grindcore. We're not locked in. And Metal Blade signed us. That was a dream come true because so many albums I loved on Metal Blade my whole life shaped me as a guitarist and as a metal fan. And, I thought Brian Slagle at Metal Blade was a god. And to me, he's still a god. He's a very good friend of mine as well now. And I love Brian. And so to be signed by Brian Slagle, like, first to be signed at all was a huge deal. And to have Brian Slagle sign us and Marco Barbieri, who was the A&R guy, who really went after us and was a great friend and believed in the band. They made it happen. So we signed the Metal Blade, and I was like, now I'm a little bit smarter and about the music business already, right? And we're doing our second album, Balls of Repugnance. I said, hey, could you guys get the rights to Swamp Thing Gore? Can you talk to that label and re-release it? And they fucking did. And then when they re-released it, that's when I said, I don't want that cover ever used again. I hate it. I want the guy, Rob Smits, who did the album cover artwork for the Balls of Repugnance. I got a hold of him and said, dude, will you do a proper cover for Swamp Thing Gore? And he's like, hell yeah. So that's the artwork we did for the re-release. But now the crazy thing is, over the last 2 years, and especially last year, because it was the 30th anniversary of Swamp Thing Gore, there are all these record labels like Marquee Records and
Flogga Records did a
Flogga.
I think even Metal Blade re-released it
Marquee
again.
out of Brazil.
I think so.
I think so. Let me check. Todos Órdenes de Resoluciones. Yep, they're from somewhere in South America.
And then there's some others, and so we kept getting hit up by this foreign rights person through Metal Blade going, Jeremy, this label wants to license Swamp Thing Gore for X amount of vinyl, this color, this color, this color. They want to do cassette tapes, which I'm like, what the fuck, cassette tapes?
I know.
And they could use your help with getting the liner notes, lyrics, original pictures, because I'm like, Mr. Broken Hope. I keep everything. I got everything archived. I got every single thing you could think of, like, that we've ever done, from every show flyer to every photo ever taken, video, all that shit. So I talked to these guys, and I'm like, well, all right, I will give you guys high-res artwork for Swamp Thing Gore. And I was talking about the Metal Blade, Rob Smits artwork. And all these labels like, no, we want the original cover, the grindcore in. I'm like, what?
Oh, man.
And they're like, yeah, kids nowadays are in the old school death metal. You don't understand. They worship Broken Hope in a way. Like, and I meet a lot of young fans, and I love young fan. I love any fan of ours. And I have met fans who went to Broken Hope shows with their parents who were fans. And it blows my mind, the older I get, to see how the music transcends generations and stuff. But all these labels are telling me the same thing. I'm talking separately, It's not like we're all talking together in a Zoom meeting. One guy saying, no, we want the original. I'm like, so's the other guy. Yeah, because the kids want that old shit. You don't understand, blah, blah, blah. So I was saying, okay, I mean, I wasn't
digging my heels in saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, all right, if you really think that. But it wasn't until what really showed me the light was my stepson, Tyler. So he's 27. He's in a grindcore band called Glory Hole Guillotine. And he has his finger on the pulse of everything metal. Like, he's the first guy, like a year ago, before they even had albums out, who told me about 200 Stand Wounds and Sanguisugabog and all these other bands. Like, he's got his finger on the pulse of everything that's new in death metal, grind, doom, hardcore, everything. Like
all over the map.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And he's the one who said, I'm telling you, if that's what everyone wants, and it's the 30th album anniversary of Swamp the Gore. This was a conversation we had last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm telling you that you don't understand. The new generation of death metal fans, they go down rabbit holes. They hear a Broken Hope song. They're fucking blown away by it. They want to hear your whole catalog. Then they want to find out about the band. Where did you come from? What was it? Then they find out you had a different album cover in the beginning. We want that. We want our own, like, we can't find it on eBay. We want our own original cover. We worship it. And man, we did. So I signed off on all the licensing. And also we played last year Psycho Las Vegas for our 30th anniversary of Swamp the Gore. And we, for the first time ever, we made merchandise with that original album cover on it. We never did that before because, again, we hated the goddamn artwork. But I'll tell you guys, we fucking sold out of all the merchandise at Psycho, on our web store, and then all those labels that made Swamp the Gore with that cover on vinyl and all those colors and shit, they all sold out. So it's crazy to me, but
yeah,
It is.
I got it.
But now I get it. So now I don't outright say I fucking hate that cover. I have a new appreciation for it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to the fans.
Yeah, because I mean, Levi and I, of course, we're younger. Of course, we started listening to metal when we were, I don't know, probably 8, 7 years old, around there. Levi, I think you were older than that. So when you have stuff like that, when they were issue albums, when you're trying to find albums that are so hard to find, of course, when you mentioned Swamp the Gore one, which honestly, I prefer the alternative cover. To me, as more iconic version. Yeah. I can appreciate this one at the time when it was released. Same thing with when I mentioned Levi to this. I would love to have an original version of Virgin Killer by the Scorpions, the original album cover. Even though it's kind of, at the time it was edgy, and to this day it still kind of is. Yeah. But again, the authenticity of the original album cover, and Levi knows this. We sometimes go deep balls into Discogs, and eBay, Amazon to find somewhere albums, because if you kind of notice by Levi's background and kind of my background, we have a lot of CDs.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I dig that. I noticed that right away.
Yeah. So are you also a CD kind of person, tape trader, vinyl collector, or it's a mix of everything?
I still have, I don't have a huge tape collection anymore. Like when I was younger in the 90s, I just sold all my tapes, pretty much all of them. I still have all the demo tapes I used to trade. I actually kept all those. I still have all kinds of demos. And I have like all the Broken Hope cassette things, just because, again, I'm the keeper of the Broken Hope,
the legacy
archives and shit, So I always liken my hoarding of Broken Hope stuff like that of a parent with a kid. Broken Hope's like my baby, my kid. So parents will save their kids report cards, their baby teeth, their fucking awards, or whatever they get.
Yearbooks.
And that's me. That's me with Broken Hope. So I still have all those cassettes and stuff, but CDs, I still have a real fondness for CDs. And my wife and I have a shitload of CDs, man. I got a lot. And like,
what would you say would be the current count if you could estimate?
Yeah, more or less. Just a number, top of your head, because I can tell you right now with me, I'm exactly at 290, close to 300. Levi, you're close to what, 800?
I just surpassed 750. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say somewhere in that neighborhood of 750 to 800, maybe.
Oh wow.
If not more. But yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Too bad nobody will ever top Necrotic Nick's collection of almost 10,000.
Oh, there's probably somebody out there. Probably somebody out there who has.
That's fucking nuts. I have a friend, she's a really awesome rock and metal photographer. She's a total metalhead. Like, we've been friends since we were both like 22. Her name's Stephanie Cabral. If you ever look up Stephanie Cabral photography, you know who she is?
Yeah.
She had, I think she still has it. She had one of the sickest CD collections when I just in the 90s alone. And she would alphabetize them and had a huge.
That's what I do too.
So I think she still has a really amazing collection. And I think maybe, I'm not sure. I swore I saw pictures. I never asked him about it, but the late great Trevor Sternad of the Black Dahlia Murder, I think he had a sick CD collection too. Like, probably blow us all out of the water, you know.
Oh, I can imagine that. I can imagine that.
I mean, hell, it's like normal people might look at us and be like, "You guys have problems." I'm like,
no, maybe.
I could stop any time, and if there's a fucking intervention, I ain't showing up.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
The problem I have.
You don't have a problem. You have a problem.
Look,
that's fine.
I can admit we have a problem, and also the Horsemen also buy CDs. Hannah's the exception. She's more of a vinyl collector. But mostly sometimes we're like, okay, we bought enough CDs, we got to save up for paying our bills and that. But sometimes you come across some rare stuff, you're like, oh, fuck. You got to.
I mean, hell, just to kind of go to show you, if I can find it. I mean, I go down that rabbit hole like you've been talking about, Ricky, with trying to find rare stuff. And the rarest one that I have is this.
Oh, wow.
Best Wishes.
Wow, that's awesome.
Which I managed to get in damn good condition for $14. When you look elsewhere, they go for like 200 and stuff.
Oh yeah.
No, some CDs are hard to get. Like
like one of the reasons, like CDs I got like original Terrorizer, World Downfall, like original CD. I got Morbid Angels original CD, like the Mosh whatever number, and fucking Carcass, and that first Paradise Lost album. And back in the day, how old are you guys?
25.
I'm 28.
And Ricky?
25.
25. Okay, so yeah, when I was probably younger than you guys, broken hope, probably say around 93 or so, maybe even between Swamp to Gore, Bowels of Repugnance, probably, I had to have been like 21 maybe, but all the earache stuff wasn't even licensed yet in the US, so it was import, so I had to go to independent record stores to get World Downfall, to get Altars of Madness, and to get Lost Paradise by Paradise Lost. And that shit was like fucking back then $30 a pop. And that $30 in 1991, again, to a guy who was flat broke all the time, was like a
lot of money.
I'd spend all my money on those CDs, man, because I'm like, I gotta fucking have them, you know.
For the
and
love
now
of
those
metal?
CDs,
For the love.
I don't know what they're worth on the rare CD market, but I still got them. I'll never get
one of my most current rare CDs, and it's of course my Leprosy CD, which is it's the new edition that came out, but the Mix and Raven would be rare, is because I actually went to see Left to Die and met Rick Ross and Terry Butler.
Oh, right on.
And they both signed it. So some of my friends were like, "Are you gonna sell it?" I'm like, "Fuck no, I'm not gonna sell that shit."
Yeah, no. Terry Butler is really nice.
Oh yeah, he's a big dude. I was like,
oh yeah,
he's a big dude.
I first saw him, but back when again, like old man Wagner here, but I saw Terry Butler like with Death, on the Leprosy tour and shit, like and Spiritual Healing tour. That was like one of my favorite bands back then. And it just so cool because I've been able to tour with Terry when he was in 6 Feet Under and tour with him in Obituary, and it's really cool to see that he still has a passion for metal.
Oh yeah,
and the guy, he's from that original sweet spot, I call it, of Death's history, and that's fucking cool. You got to meet him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I almost didn't meet him because
Rick Ross too, of course, with Gore.
Yeah, actually, with Rick Ross was kind of a love-hate relationship at first because a funny story is, before the pandemic hit, Massacre was supposed to come to my town, and of course, being Massacre, everybody in my local scene was like, "Dude, we gotta go see Massacre." So I bought the ticket in advance, which was $20. So to me, that was worth it. And of course, the promoter of the town was like, "We're gonna have a meet and greet before the show that we can meet the band, get some signed stuff." So I was getting ready, and I didn't. To this day, I don't have any Massacre albums. I need to get some eventually. When I was
From Beyond,
I was gonna get From Beyond, and I was like, "I'm getting high."
Oh right.
I'm listening to Massacre all the time.
I didn't even think of that myself.
And then, of course, is when the whole shit happened with the cancel the entire tour, and it pissed off I don't know for what reason. I think it was management or something. I don't know why. So, and of course, I was pissed off because they didn't tell the promoter in advance. Usually, try to tell them, "We're sorry, we won't be able to make this show on time." At least try to reschedule it. No, they just fell up, said, "We're not coming." And I held that grudge for almost 2 years. I held that grudge for almost 2 years. But then I realized as time went by, it's not good to hold grudges. So I was like, you know what? He's coming back. I'll give him a second chance. I met him. Nice guy. I took some pictures with him. He was nice enough to sign my Leprosy CD. Shook his hand. Told him it was an amazing show afterwards. And of course, we covered the hatch.
Gotcha. Did you get to meet the rest of the band?
Yes, I did.
Did you mention what happened to Terry or Rick?
I didn't tell Rick because I was like, why am I gonna tell him? Look, I'm meeting Rick. No, I'm not gonna tell him. I'm gonna be like, I'm meeting Rick. I don't want to be like, oh, you kidding me?
Did you pay for you paid for a meet and greet though, right?
Oh no, that was after.
Okay. I see. Okay, gotcha.
No. I met Rick.
I misunderstood because I thought if you paid for a meet and greet, they didn't show and you didn't get your money back.
For Massacre, the meeting greet. No. For
Right.
Massacre, the meet and greet was going to be a free meet and greet. It was going to be somewhere downtown, and you just come by and just meet them.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Again, the show didn't happen. The meet and greet didn't happen, and of course, when I met Ross and Left to Die, he was just going around the venue helping out. I mean, putting stuff in the back, meeting fans, shaking their hand, taking pictures. So I was like,
killer.
Let me meet Rick Ross, and of course that happened. And with Terry, I almost didn't meet Terry because I was almost leaving, and then one of my friends was like, "Dude, Terry just came out of the locker room," and I was like,
"Go to him."
I was like, "I need to go to him." Of course, I talked to him, shook his hand. I'm a big fan. Took a picture. He signed my CD. So I have now 2 out of the 4 of Leprosy lineup. Of course, with Chuck no longer with us, and we'll never get him. I just need we need Sean, but he fucking lives in Japan.
Right.
That's
but
cool.
yeah, that is pretty sweet. But I feel like I would be remiss to do this interview and not mention this question. Of course, going back, especially the whole 90s run right here, Swamp and Gore, Bowels of Repugnance, Repulsive Conception, Loathing, and Grotesque Blessings. Aside from your riff writing and lyrical writing, the other big key component for me with Broken Hope was the late, great Joe Ptacek. I mean, a long time ago, I did this countdown video of like who I thought are the 10 or 15 best death metal vocalists. I had Joe ranked really high, like almost top 5, because I feel like, and I always describe Joe's vocal style. It's like you hear like guys like John Tardy and Martin Van Drunen who do like the raspier, higher stuff, and how they use the tongue to go because they got that similar style, and I love that. So I always described, especially on Swamped in Gore, it almost sounded like Joe took that approach, but just went to the lowest possible depths you could go. And it always blows my mind to hear, like, a lot of people credit Chris Barnes for pioneering that super low guttural vocal, which he was very instrumental early on for sure. But I feel Joe took it to a whole nother level. And Frank Mullen from Suffocation, both of those guys took that and just ran with it to the absolute extreme. So my question is, like, since Joe's no longer with us, may he rest in peace, any great stories, like funny stories of the past between you two? Because I always like going back and watching back the documentary on the special edition. Like, you guys, like Sean Glass put it, I think, perfectly. It was like the Tom and Jerry kind of relationship where it was like,
Joe, Joe, well, first off, about the gutturals, I'll share this with you, relevant to Joe. So Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, Broken Hope, all 3 bands actually formed in 1988. And so when I think Effigy of the Forgotten by Suffo and Cannibal Corpse's Eaten Back to Life came out the same year, maybe Suffo came out when Swamped in Gore did. I think Cannibal came out a year before us, but we, we never heard. I had Suffocation's demo. They were great guys. I met them, I happened to meet them at a show on Long Island before fucking any of us had albums out. I went to see Death and Devastation on a spiritual healing tour, and I drove from Chicago to see that show in Long Island, and like Immolation guys were there who I was already friends with, and Suffocation were these local Long Island guys. Like, they're like, "Hey, we're nice to meet you. You're Broken Hope, huh?" And like one guy even had I forgot his name. I don't even think he was ever on the first album, but he was in the band. He had a Suffocation business card he gave to me. "Here's my card, man. Hit me
might
up."
have been Guy Marchese, maybe.
And anyway, so my point was, we heard what, like, on demos, like what Suffocation were doing. We were always listening to demos. We heard Immolation, of course. Their first demo was great. I love their second demo so fucking much to this day. It's so good. And then we were fans of Death and Obituary, and Morbid Angel. So we knew like what all these other guys were like doing. And Joe always say, like, "I'm gonna fucking be more guttural than these guys. That's what these riffs need." Like, the term guttural, fucking, that came out of his mouth. Everyone says guttural now, but he's a teenager saying guttural. No one used that word to describe that style. And it was Joe's mom, when we recorded our first demo, because she knew how to some pointers on singing and shit. And she told Joe, because what Joe does, it isn't fucking singing. That ain't opera or anything. No. But she's like, "Joe, you got to do it from your diaphragm. You got to get that. You want to get that deep guttural thing you're doing. Use your diaphragm, not your throat." And talk about working on your craft. Joe just worked on being the sickest death metal vocalist, the most guttural. And then, like, on whatever album it is, he fucking everyone's instruments, guitars, drums, bass, and he's esophagus, You know, he put esophagus. You know, so there's all kinds of death metal vocals style wise. Oh, like you said, Martin Van Drunen to Chuck Schuldiner to John Tardy to Jeff Walker to Chris Barnes. You know, everyone just got their own style. But Joe, part of our mission was always one to be like the heaviest death metal band possible. We're always about fucking being super fucking heavy, mixing it up. You know, I got the Terrorizer influence. I love the grind, and you know, have that mix of like Jesse Pintado grinding shit with fucking, you know, catchy, super heavy groove riffs, you know, whatever. Again, just whatever comes out of my fingertips, you know, as long as I'm a big fan first, you know, so, but I always was like, oh, I still got the attitude I did when I was a teenager and in my 20s that like, I want to blow people's fucking heads off with my music. I want to write a riff so heavy that someone wants to take a cinder block and smash their fucking face through it, you know, because it's so heavy. But anyway, Joe's attitude with that attitude was, yep, well, I'm going to be the sickest fucking death metal vocalist that anyone's ever going to hear. And I believe he was. I'm not just saying that as a biased fan and, you know, love of Joe, which I, you know, hold that love in my heart all the time, but he really fucking nailed it. You know, yeah. I mean, he really pioneered that stuff. I'll give you this. Decibel magazine does a Hall of Fame issue. They put these great albums in their Decibel Hall of Fame, and they interview band members and stuff and talk about it. And they did a Hall of Fame once years ago, like in the mid 2000s, if I remember right. You know, it was when the magazine was younger and before Broken Hope reformed. If I got it right, Albert at Decibel might remember. He'd probably tell me what fucking year it was, but they did this Hall of Fame, and in that particular Hall of Fame at the end, they had this cool section where they asked other musicians of bands, hey, who do you think should be in the Decibel Hall of Fame and why? And they asked all these different metal guys, and one of the guys they asked was Trevor Sternad from Black Dahlia Murder. What album should be in the Decibel Hall of Fame and why? And fucking Trevor, man, this is even before I met Trevor, and I instantly loved him for this, of course, because he said Broken Hope's Repulsive Conception should be in the Decibel Hall of Fame. Why? For the vocals alone.
Exactly.
So I'm like, thank you, Trevor, because Joe would have fucking loved to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing that. Yeah. So I only mention that because if you have any respect for Trevor Sternad, his legacy and discography, and what a fan he was of fucking metal, being the encyclopedia that he is, for him to say that is a testament to Joe's vocal style in respect to Joe as a fucking pioneer of true guttural death metal vocals. Well, it didn't sound like Cannibal Corpse's Chris Barnes. He didn't sound anything like the Suffocation Boys. He just fucking focused on being the sickest, and he was.
Yeah,
absolutely. Practice his house. I have so many funny stories about Joe. Joe was a little bit crazy at times. He was in when we were in high school together. He was in what they called BD class, behavior disorder class, because he was such a he was like punk rock to the core, like Anarchy, fucking, you know, he was the closest thing you could probably get to like a Sid Vicious or a fucking Johnny Rotten at that age. Like he fucking anti-school, anti-cop, anti-parent, and fucking, we love the same music. And he turned me on to a lot of hardcore and punk bands I didn't ever listen to, and because he liked that attitude and that energy, and he loved metal and death metal, and he was a perfect guy for being in a band. But as a person, he was like, society was like something he wasn't gonna subscribe to. He wasn't gonna go work a blue collar job or a job period that he's gonna do his own work or whatever, be it working on Harley Davidsons or creating something that would make him money. He was not like anyone else I'd ever met in my life. And like he'd do like crazy shit. He was really like, when we were younger, he was into reptiles, and he fucking got like all these different fucking lizards, like from, I don't know, herpetological trade shows and shit. He had like monitor lizards, Gila monsters, fucking geckos, shit. Like, I love animals. I think lizards and shit are great, but man, I don't want to fucking handle them, dude. Like, this guy would handle some fucking crazy big ass lizards and shit. And to that same no, like anything that those were ones he purchased and fucking kept in aquariums at his parents' house down in the basement. But if he saw a reptile like in the wild, he'd like grab it and bring it home. And the one time, I never told this story. We were younger again, fucking early 90s, maybe 1990. I just remember it was summertime and we're fucking out walking around. So he lived in a town called Wildwood, Illinois. I lived not like only a couple minutes from him in a Gages Lake. And the whole county here where we live in Northern Illinois is called Lake County. There's a million fucking lakes around here. So we're walking around, left his house one day. We're walking down the street. We're walking by this lake. And there's this crazy movement in the water, like the water's thrashing and shit. Like, Joe, what the hell is that? And he's like, holy fuck, those are snapping turtles. And I don't know if they were fighting or mating or what, but they're hanging on you. And they're super fucking huge. I don't know if you guys ever have seen a snapping turtle.
Oh, yeah. Those
I've seen them plenty of times. Yeah. The adult ones, they're fucking something out of the Cretaceous period. They got a fucking long tail. Yeah. Their necks can elongate really long, to fucking grab shit. They got big fucking claws too. I mean, they're dinosaurs. Fucking Joe, in all his clothes, fucking dives into the fucking water. And he comes up holding two huge fucking alligator snapping turtles. Oh, and he fucking brought them home. He carried them down the street. Like, dude, you're fucking insane. That thing fucking, one of those locks onto you, dude, you're gonna be screaming. And he just did shit like that, like just out of the random shit.
Wow.
He was screaming for vengeance.
I'm telling you.
Oh my
God. We did our first big North American tour was on the Balls of Repugnance. It was like fucking 50 dates or something. And
with Unleashed, right?
With Unleashed, supporting Unleashed. Yeah. Great. It was a great tour. We were in a cargo van and a trailer. So it's like bare bones, like no seats in the back. We had a mattress, 2 seats in front. The radio sucked. It was like a fucking AM radio. There's no air conditioning. Like, when I talk about all this shit, talk about paying dues, we fucking paid our dues. Hard fucking core punk rock style.
Yes.
I'm telling you. But Joe, like any young people, you fucking, I don't know, you guys are 25 and 28, but sometimes you get bored after fucking driving a million miles. People want entertainment. And the worst things on that tour were Joe trying to amuse himself or entertain himself because he got bored after a while. You know, we were on a tour bus. This is like a sheet metal fucking box going down all over the United States and Canada. And Joe would, he'd start fucking with certain guys in the band. If you were driving, it's amazing we didn't get in accidents. This fucker would have fireworks from fucking, really fucking fireworks stands in the middle of nowhere. We'd be hitting a little fucker would shoot bottle rockets while I'm driving, fucking blowing up at my feet like fucking.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna fucking kill you. And I wasn't ever gonna kill Joe. He's always way bigger than me. I'd be driving, grab me in a headlock and shit. It's like,
oh God.
Oh God. It's reminding me of the kind of the plane ride from hell with Lesnar and Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, and
but,
oh God.
Yeah, there's some just great stuff. One thing about Joe, he fucking made me laugh all the fucking time. He could make me laugh fucking hard, man. Yeah. But we were so close. We were like, especially in the 90s, it was like we lived near each other. We saw each other every day. We had to stream to make Broken Hope. It was him, Ryan. Joe, Ryan, and me are the founding fathers of Broken Hope, the three of us. And Joe and I especially were always together. Again, just because we lived near each other and we were always practicing. And I'd work with him when I wrote the lyrics. And we had a really special relationship. And but like brothers, you got one brother that's bigger than the other, and he likes to fuck with the littler one and fucking bully him, fuck around with them, and so he could make me laugh like no one else, and he could get me super pissed in a fucking nanosecond. And that's what amused him. He'd start laughing when I get pissed off. And then I was always also a smart ass. So I go from being pissed off to then I'd fuck with him, like just asking for more trouble. It was just in my nature, but it was, great stuff, man. Joe, I love him, and before he died, we had reconnected because we kind of went our separate ways after 2002. And when we reconnected before he died, we had started hanging out again, and it was really fucking nice. He was in a really good place, like he wasn't the old Joe I knew, the Hellraiser, the kid who was
troublemaker
in class and all that. He had grown up, but he was the same Joe who I knew from when we first became friends. Like, he's still jamming that first Paradise Lost album. He's still jamming on Napalm Death and Morbid Ain't, all the shit that we both worship. So when we'd hang, we'd listen to that shit because he was still listening to it all the time like me. It was fucking great. We talked about getting Broken Hope together, and because I was like, dude, you got to see, because he didn't really pay attention, man, after the hiatus, what was up with Broken Hope. He didn't realize after 10 years, or so, fucking, because he wasn't in. It was about 10 years when we reconnected after he left Broken Hope, right after Grotesque Blessings. So when I left, it was 2002, and I was with a totally different lineup. So my point is, Joe had a good decade where he didn't really pay attention to what was going on in the world. More and more metal fans, and Broken Hope's off the radar. And more people wanted Broken Hope to come back. And then I started showing Joe shit on the internet. Like, look at all these fans that worship you and think you're the sickest vocalist, and people wish we come back. And that's what he's like, man, we should fucking, you know, he said it like the Blues Brothers. Again, maybe makes me laugh thinking about it. He's like,
we're on a mission from
oh,
God.
put the old band back together, huh? You know, it was fucking hilarious. But unfortunately, we didn't get to use Joe because he died. And I didn't think I'd do it again after he died. But I don't know. I'm still here, and life had different plans for me. And I'm like fucking so happy that I'm finally said, fuck it. I got to do Broken Hope now, or I'm never going to do it. And that's been fucking 10 years we've been back.
Yeah.
2 studio albums, 1 live album, 1 documentary movie, 2 live concert DVDs.
Yeah.
We're doing our next one. And we're playing Mexico Mountain Fest next month. So I'm happy to be here. And I always think of Joe and Ryan when I hit the stage. Every time I fucking play those old songs, I've said this before in interviews, I'll play anything that I did with those guys from the 90s and fucking I'm thinking of you guys right fucking now. I hope you're here with me, you know?
Right.
Yeah. It's cool. So, yeah.
And we're happy you're still here too, delivering all the goods.
Thank you.
Such.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One other, speaking of like that mid-90s period, like we get into a little bit with Loathing.
Yeah.
One of the big curious things when watching back is now I want to go back and watch the documentary for the 100th time. But
now I got to do a 30. I'm gonna have to do a 35th documentary like next year.
that would be really cool.
Because that's the 25th anniversary of Broken Hope, I think. Like, something like that. Yeah. Or 25 years of sickness, the story of Broken Hope. Yeah. So got to update.
And thankfully, I bought this at a record shop in Tennessee a long time ago.
Oh, awesome!
Thank God. So yeah. But the curious thing about that time frame with Loathing, because I always say, if people were to ask me, name an underrated death metal band, instantly think Broken Hope, because they are a band that I feel that the broader spectrum of death metal fans who are like, oh, we worship death, we worship Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel, Obituary, and then you mentioned Broken Hope, it's like, I think I heard of them.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because you look back.
It's a weird thing. Not everyone fucking knows us. It's like,
I mean, honestly, before meeting Levi, I didn't know who Broken Hope was. It wasn't until one day he was like, guys, I discovered this band Broken Hope. And then I was like, send me the link. And I was like, what the fuck?
Change your whole world. But the curious thing, because like with me saying how I feel Broken Hope should get more love, but one particular tour that I notice in like your whole history of touring, the one that sticks out the most in terms of the history, headlining over Vader and Monstrosity, who are 2 other great bands going super strong at that time, especially Vader. They had Ultimate Incantation, De Profundas, which I have, and then Monstrosity, and kind of Monstrosity fits in that same bill as Broken Hope. Very underrated, and people always look at Monstrosity, oh, that's the band that Corpse Grinder and Pat O'Brien came from, which is true, but kind of not the case because they are a great band. But but what I'm curious about is when that tour was being discussed, what was the process like of whenever you guys were chosen as the headline band?
Well, we had toured off Repulsive Conception, and we kept touring on that one. That one really did well sales-wise. And when Loathing came out, I think it was a culmination of your usual record industry shit, like record sales from Repulsive Conception going into Loathing, and then Loathing, bigger budget to record with. We always want to have the best sounding album sonically, so more time to do shit like mix and do the songs right, and then you have that epic fucking artwork from Wes Benscoter. I don't know. It was like all the stars aligned for that album, and it was fucking. It was an amazing time, and the powers that be. I'm talking Metal Blade and whatever the label, Millennium Records, I think, is who at the time put out both Vader and Monstrosity's albums back then in '97. And it was all them saying it's time for Broken Hope to go from opener to headliner, and we want to put this package together. And that's who did it, and management and all that stuff, you know. And then that tour was a lot of fucking fun. That was a great tour. You know, it was our first time headlining a tour. So we didn't know what to expect, but all the shows were fucking sick. I mean, the turnouts were great. And God, yeah, that was a blast. That tour was a real friggin' blast for sure.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it happened in a nutshell, you know. To this day, now I'd rather support bigger bands. I just don't see Broken Hope as a headliner, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if we sold a bazillion fucking albums and, you know, everyone had,
then
Yeah.
maybe, right?
Yeah, kind of like the Napalm Death Carcass thing in a
you
way.
know, yeah, like we always feel really great being direct support to like a huge band, you know. One, it's not an ego thing. We it's just like we want to play to as many people as possible, and we always feel for supporting a really great bigger band. It's almost like we're super hungry and jazzed and enthusiastic, like we're a bunch of young men again. Like we're like, all right, we're gonna fucking give this crowd as an opening act their fucking money's worth. And just that's, I don't know, it's like the place we like to be, you know, or anywhere on a major festival is fine with us.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But headlining, I just, you know, I don't know, man. Just headlining's funny. I mean, headlining's funny because it's a crapshoot of how the fuck we're gonna draw. Sometimes it's like 20 people. Sometimes it's a few hundred, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-COVID, we did do 3 shows last year that surprised the fuck out of me. We did Psycho Las Vegas, San Diego, and LA all in a row with Devourment. Those fucking shows were like sold out, and we were headlining. So it got me thinking maybe times have changed. I don't know. Maybe people appreciate, you know, old school Broken Hope death metal and are going to come out and see it.
Yeah.
But,
Oh yeah.
The old guard coming back stronger than ever.
And you know what? And you know what? That makes me
so
think.
my point is I'd be happy to headline if there was always a decent draw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you drive 500 miles and play to 10, 20 people, you're like, fuck, what? You know, I could have stayed home and played Sniper Week 5. You know?
Right.
So that's all I'm saying, you know.
Yeah.
Bands mean everything, but sometimes you're like, you know, you got to pick and choose your battles. And I just don't want to tour if it doesn't make sense. That's all. You know,
absolutely,
financially, you know, and draw wise. So, yeah.
Definitely the day that you guys get to tour, once this new album comes out and you guys get to tour, I would, if you guys ever do a show either in Columbus, Cincinnati, or Huntington, West Virginia, I'm there.
Oh yeah.
We'd love to come back to Ohio and Texas. Texas has always kind of actually been Broken Hope country. That's a state where I think we could headline the whole fucking state.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, there's parts of the world that I call Broken Hope country. There's Texas. Now I'd say Southern California is back for us. then there's Mexico, all Latin America, South America, and places like the Czech Republic and Eastern Bloc countries, broken home country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But even in Chicago or fucking, you know, New York or something, you know, who knows? Who knows? Even our backyard, man, we'd be lucky to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, but
You'd
who
be
knows?
doing
And I said,
backyard
I
show.
was surprised after those COVID shows because it really fucking was like, wow, this is awesome. So who knows? Maybe it's a different world now. You know, it's been a while. We haven't toured.
Yeah.
We've done shit here and there, but it's been a while since we toured. So.
Which, funny enough, now that you brought up Psycho Las Vegas, I remember you shared recently a post on your Instagram, a photo you took with Ross from Immolation, Jeff from Carcass, and Abath.
Of all people,
Of all people, Abat. And it was really cool. That's probably one of my favorite pics I've seen on Instagram ever.
That's a fucking, yeah, that was a great, I love that. I love that photo. And it was just fucking like happened. I was hanging out with Ross from Immolation the whole weekend. He was there with his girlfriend. I was there with my wife. And we're like, hey, let's hook up. We're here. So we just hung out the whole time. So we were going from, I can't remember, I think it was towards the end of the night on that Friday. I can't remember. Emperor, I think, were the main band.
Yeah.
And then when they got done, Ross and I were walking back through the casino to where the hotel rooms were. And as we're walking, fucking who's there at a slot machine but Jeff Walker from Carcass,
Right
and
there.
then fucking Abath, and the other Abath's got that band Bombers, and he had that guitar player with him from Bombers was nearby. So we took a picture because Jeff Walker's an old friend of mine. I fucking love that guy, and I love Carcass, and I was looking forward to seeing him that weekend because I knew he was going to be there all weekend after they played. And that was right when I first saw him, you know, outside of being on stage that same evening. So, and I'm looking, so I'm talking to Jeff, and Abath is there, and like I met him before because Abath opened for Obituary, and I was on Obituary's bus, and Abath came on without his makeup, and guy's super fucking big dude.
Dude,
like
he's tall.
He's tall, his fucking head, his shoulders. He's like this big, blocky fucking Norwegian dude. But he's a fucking, that guy is a character, man. Like I knew who he was, and he's always kind of a smart ass. He was sitting in a chair by a slot machine. Jeff Walker's sitting at a slot machine. They're just talking. Ross and I roll up. Hey, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. And Abath was like, he's making jokes, and he's kind of a smart ass. And so I go, hey, where are you from? I mean, no, I knew where he's from. He's like, oh, from Norway, blah, 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 blah. He's like, where are you from? I go, I'm from Chicago. And he's like, yeah, you look like it. And I go, I knew where you were from, bro. And I go, hey, you're fucking hilarious. And he goes, here. He stands up. He's like, here, take my hand. So I take his hand. You gotta understand, I'm 5'3". Everyone's fucking taller than me, but this guy is huge. I grab his hand and he starts spinning me around, and then grabbing like we're dancing. I'm like, what the fuck? Now we're dancing together? It was super funny.
Oh wow, that just came up my mind.
It was really fucking funny. But those guys were great. So Jeff is there. Again, I love Jeff. It was just so good to see him. We're just all shooting the shit, and then it's like Ross and I had to get somewhere, so we're like, we got to take a fucking picture right now with the fucking four of us. So that's the picture I was on. I think my wife took it. I think I gave her my phone. I said, here, use my phone. So you got us together, and Abbott's head's on top of fucking Jeff Walker's head.
Mhm.
And that band he's got, though, Bombers, that Motorhead cover band, that's the fucking best thing you'll ever see next to Motorhead. That was
Wow.
I watched their whole set that weekend. Goddamn, they're fucking great. They played everything. But good times, man. Good times. Never know who you run into.
Oh yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
That was that was fucking fun.
Yeah, that was an awesome picture. Well, real quick, actually, this almost left my head and then it came back in. So we recently had Dan Swano on the
oh
show.
God, here
Yes.
we
Here
go.
it
Oh
comes.
God, here we go.
So we were finishing up that interview, which great interview, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
Absolutely love it. And Dan Swano, great guy. At the very end, we were talking about what was coming up next, and we were talking about having you on, and he wanted to send his regards to you, and he brought up that he did a test mix for Broken Hope once.
He did.
So,
Those fucking bastards.
He did. Yeah.
yeah.
Dan Swano did a test mix before we did Omen of Disease album.
Oh.
Oh.
So we had test mix from Dan Swano, Scott Creekmore, the guitar player from Cataclysm, because we were managed by Mauricio of Cataclysm at the time.
Wow.
And James Murphy, and I think one other guy. There were like 5 test mixes.
Wow.
And at the time, I like Dan Swano's mix, if I remember right, and I really like Scott Creekmore's mix. I wanted to use one of the two, but there was some politics there. Our old bass player, Sean Glass, he's the one who brought James Murphy into the picture. And Sean, he's really got, I don't know, ears and opinions when it comes to mixes. And I know he's really pushing for James.
Mm-hmm.
So it, was all up to the band too. So somewhere between band and management, we ended up going with James Murphy. Nothing against James.
No.
He was total.
Scott Creekmore, who did a killer fucking test mix, is like one of my oldest best friends, like before Broken Hope and Joe or anyone. He's one of the first guys I ever met here when I was a teenager in Northern Illinois when I moved down here. And Scott Creekmore came back though, because he's the guy who did fucking Mutilated and Assimilated. So you like that mix. But
yeah, that is a killer mix.
Dan Swano, man, that guy's got a good fucking memory.
He does.
Oh yeah, he does.
I remember.
My mind, I brought that up.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even know. I was like,
5 guys doing test mixes.
And you have to go with the one.
Yeah.
Just the
I'm
one.
just imagining in some multiverse, Dan Swano worked with Broken Hope.
In another multiverse, yeah.
Yeah.
The Rick and Morty episode.
Definitely. Or a Doctor Strange movie or something.
Mm-hmm.
And in another multiverse, we're like headlining fucking Wembley Stadium in Madison Square Garden too.
Oh God. Death metal at MSG.
The biggest mosh pit in the fucking world.
Yeah, like holy crap, like the biggest circle pit you would ever see.
To the point that even Satan will be like, I need to get on this shit. Open up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
What a rabbit hole we just went down with that.
Yeah, no shit.
Crap.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
Wow. Well, I figured because I almost forgot with the time, Ricky, he has to get ready for work very, very soon. And
I got to go to band practice.
Yeah.
So, but before we go, we just want to thank you, Jeremy, once again. It was an honor and privilege to talk to you. This was
you too.
Awesome.
It was amazing.
Levi, I appreciate your patience. I know you were asking me over and over again before, and I'm like, oh, you got to go through my publicist because she's
Which she's really cool. We've been talking on emails.
Yeah, she's sets up schedule shit for me, and you know, after a while, I hadn't heard anything, and I guess when I followed up with you, you hadn't actually talked to Nikki before.
No.
Right? So I didn't forget your messages to me, and
thank you.
Two things that are always important to me is one that I always remember people who are legitimately interested in talking to me in an interview. You know, I don't take that for granted. I don't care who the fuck it is, right? It could be the Four Horsemen, could be Rolling Stone. I don't give a shit. People want to talk to me. I'm happy to talk to them and do an interview. Appreciate the opportunity, you know. And then the second thing is channeling, trying to go through the right channels, whether it's with my publicist, helping me with the schedule. It's like, you know, I don't want to sound like that's some rock star bullshit either. Like,
right.
It makes my life easier. Plus, like with Broken Hope and some of the other stuff I do, when I, like Nikki Law, Breaking the Law PR, shout out. She's the one who, like, Broken Hope has been with for last couple albums, and she made her own company. And so I'm like, when she went off on her own, like, we're with you, we support you, you know, you're a great friend and always did great by our band, blah blah blah. So to that end, you know, just wanted to keep things in the family. But you know, when I didn't hear anything from Nikki, and I didn't forget you, I'm like, hey man, did you ever do that? Because just want you know, I'm down to do your podcast.
Yeah,
I'm not a rock star dick.
No, definitely not. One of the best people we've ever talked to.
I ever think I'd never blow anyone off, and
right.
You know, I'm always as a certain person once told me years ago, I'm the nicest guy in death metal, so I want to keep that reputation going. So again,
and I'd say
that's why I reached back out to you to make sure, hey, bro, I never forgot you. You want to talk? I want to go on your podcast. So
yeah,
here we are. Thank you.
What perfect timing, timing right around the time we did the Dan Swano interview. It was like, oh my God, no fucking way. This is awesome.
I was like, Levi,
thank you for reminding me.
Die. I'm like, Levi, you're going to fucking die.
I don't know how my heart's still going. I mean, Dan Swano and now Jeremy Wagner. What the fuck?
Yeah.
but thank you for reminding me about Nikki, because we've been starting to chat on emails.
Good. She's a great person to know. And she represents a lot of bands and artists that would be great on your podcast. So.
Yeah, and she's even offered to help my channel and the podcast out. So you never know what will come in.
You never know.
Right.
It's kind of sucks again that the rest of the Horsemen weren't here, because again they would have loved to meet you as well. So you know, hopefully one of these days we can bring the entire gang and get somebody and just pick their fucking brains.
It'll be a great time to do it when that new album of ours comes out.
Yes.
Because we'll be doing a lot of press and more shows, and anytime a new album comes out, a lot more doors open. You know, things are exciting again. Hey, Broken Hope has a new fucking album, and let's talk about it. So
absolutely.
Or with me, my new books are coming out next year, so when they drop, I'm happy to talk about those too. So.
Absolutely. So definitely a part 2 is in order for the future for sure.
Cool.
To talk about the album, the books, and of course even get you on for a top 10 list, because typically on the show we do top 10 lists of different stuff, which speaking of, next episode 72, not sure which list we're going to do, because there is the chance we're going to get James McBain once again from Hell Ripper on for top 10 first wave proto black metal albums.
Cool.
But in case we don't get him for that episode, we do have a backup, because Watch Mojo, you motherfuckers.
Oh God.
Oh, top 20 heavy metal songs, so we're gonna fix that so much.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. So that's gonna be great. But anyways, thank you guys who tuned in for episode 71. We'll hope to be back here in a week or two. And thank you once again, Jeremy, for your wisdom and everything. We love you, and we look forward to talking once again.
Yeah, Levi, Ricky, to the rest of the Horsemen, and everybody who tuned in. Thank you all. I love you guys all as well. Everyone, all fans of Broken Hope and shit. And congrats on your 71st episode. By the way, that's pretty fucking cool. You guys 71 episodes. So thank you for having me on. Sincerely, it was great talking to you. I told you, guys. I'm a motor mouth, but I can only talk for 60 minutes today. I got band practice. Well, we are fucking 2 hours.
Almost.
2 hours close.
Hey, as Nikki will tell you, I always give great interview. So
Yeah,
no one word answer.
absolutely.
But you guys fucking rule, and thanks again. Really appreciate you having me today.
Hey,
Big
no
time.
problem. Definitely
Thank
look
you.
forward to more. Thank you guys
Cool.
for watching. Horns high, and we'll see you in the next one.